Yeah, we should, because I mean, I think. By the way, you're my very first one, so my very first, and we have an audience of zero, which is better than minus numbers. So
As soon as I can do about that, I might be able to get you minus numbers.
today we want to talk about accents. We'll try and keep on that topic as much as possible. But just to begin with, I mean, you've done this a million times, Giles, I'm sure. But can you just give me the quick bio, who you are, and why you might know a little bit about accents more than and the next person? I'm aware there might be other people who also know about accents in different kind of fields, but just a little intro.
So, hello, my name is Giles Abbott. I am a voice teacher. I've been a voice teacher since 2005, working in drama schools in London. I teach voice for people who want to work on stage, for people who have to speak in business. I'm also a voice artist. I do voice recordings and voiceovers. And for 20 years, I've been a traditional storyteller.
What do you personally like, or what do you think? What's so special about the voice?
I love the human voice in particular, well, allied to speech and language. As far as we know, we, we still enjoy this privilege of being the only animals which communicate using language, as far as we know. And that to me is amazing. I mean, you meet people who go, "Oh, I wish I had that," because if only I had like amazing power to like pass what I'm thinking from my mind into somebody else's mind. Well, we do. We've all got it, and we do it by means of words. If I use words correctly, then you will see pictures in your mind that I didn't put there. I just use words to suggest to you. And I find that really exciting. And I also love the way that voice, just by pure voiceness, by its essence, communicates emotion. So even before a baby can use words, like I'm wet, I'm hungry, I'm tired, boy, they can make you feel what they're feeling. Because the emotion that they put into their voice, which is their only means of communication when they're first here, we feel it before, well, we feel we have no barrier against that. If they put emotion into their voice, our bodies hear that, receive that, and then our we physically mirror that emotion, which continues after we have speech. After we have speech, if you can say words and put feeling into them, your listeners will feel what you're saying before they can understand the words you said, which, when the two go side by side, is amazingly powerful.
I was going to say when you see that's when you see a different level of acting really when they're playing with an emotion but saying something they can do all kinds of things and I think it's that kind of ambiguity in an actor that people really like.
That's a very interesting point, and I can think of two examples. They're quite contrasting examples. Last year, I saw Ian McKellen's one-man show, and there are things that he does which are almost operatic because he's speaking a text about, say, Macbeth's grief when he finds out that his wife is dead. Mm-hmm. But his emotional tone alone, if you got him just to think the words and make the sounds of the vowels, but no actual words, you would feel it anyway. He's following the line of those words with the emotional journey, and he is taking you on a tonal journey.
Yeah, so putting it back into the accents, realm of accents. I mean, what does obviously the voice and the sound and the words we say are really important. So do you think accents came to be, and why do you think we still have them, and why do we have them, and what are they doing?
That's a really interesting question because I can remember 10 or so years ago, people were saying, oh, with the rise of broadcast media, accents were dying out, accents were disappearing. But I know at least one accent that's younger than I am. I'm a Londoner, right? But there is an accent of London English which is spoken everywhere now by the younger generations than me, and it is distinctly related to and yet different from the London English that I heard growing up.
What is it?
Well, it's like, you know what I mean? Yeah, like I was talking to, yeah, like Brendan, yeah, and like was like, because like we want to go, yeah, yeah, okay, later. That particular accent.
You hear like a lot, don't you? Like.
Like is a kind of it's called an embolalia. It's a word which means don't interrupt, I haven't finished. Yeah. So it's the same as that what we think of as people say or originally say is actually a word. And in Arabic, which I don't speak, but I know a little few phrases, Arabic speakers will say yani, and that means or like, it means exactly the same thing. It means I'm not stopping, I'm just refreshing my thought. I think accents arise and continually arise. All voices exist within a community, a speech community. And that speech community has certain rules of display. So, and you can belong to different speech communities simultaneously. So, for example, my wife was brought up in South Yorkshire. So she's been in London most of her life, but she will still say words like, I would say shove, she would say shove. That vowel is different. That's a matter of accent, and that's accent related to place. My wife's family background, her parents are both Jamaican, so the range of intonation and the way she laughs, the way the emotion, the tonal journey she takes when speaking is really not Yorkshire, which is very, hello, I'm delighted to see you. Oh, my heart rejoices at your sight. It's like every time I see you smile, it's like seeing the sunshine break through clouds. So my wife has elements of the Yorkshire accent, but she also has elements of the range of pitch expression which comes from the Caribbean. Accents exist to root you in a community, to identify you as a member of a community. And so new accents arise as a new group of people comes to think of themselves as a distinct unity, a thing in itself. So hence you get the change in accents over generations. If you want to check that out, just listen to spend a bit of time listening to BBC Radio 4 Extra. Quite distinct and quite different, isn't it, from the way we do now?
Yeah.
And I think of my grandmother, who was born in the early 20th century, she would say things like, "Oh, super."
Yeah.
Where's that "y" coming from? Well, "Oh, it suits you." And that was just an affectation of a certain socioeconomic group in Edwardian England.
Yeah, it surprises me it surprises me you get it even in the old football games, and it's almost like it used to be an upper class game or something, because they're like, so and so runs down the wing, he shoots, he scores, and they're 1-0 up. Well done. And it's kind of like this one tone, and it's like, this is what's accepted. This is what we want people to aspire to be. Let's make sure everyone listens to this type of voice, and then everyone will always, be aspiring to be better people or something. It's a very bizarre. You don't get like, oh, mate, he's running down the wing and all this, which is a bit more like what you get now. The everyday man commentates.
Yes, and you've touched on the fact that because accent roots you in a particular group, it will also have a massive relationship with class, social class. I went to a primary school in southwest London where like a lot of kids in my school were like, "Oh, what have you done with your hair? Why there?" Like a really strong South London accent. My accent sort of shows what kind of income my parents had and what kind of education I had. Accent will root you in class or socioeconomic status,
Right.
which will mean that sometimes people will trade up, try and make their accent more, as it were, upper, and some will deliberately trade down. That's a gender thing. My father, who grew up in rural Somerset with an accent like mine, posher than mine actually, he said, the kids that he knew in his village growing up were like farmers' children, and he said as he became a teenager, he really noticed how all the boys were developing strong Somerset accents like their father, but the girls were trading up.
I mean, where does it come from, do you think, this London accent that you experience at school?
It's not always possible to tell exactly where an accent comes from, but you can trace influences. So the London accent is related to the home counties' accents. So if you travel around Surrey and Hertfordshire and Buckinghamshire and what have you, Berkshire, you'll hear people talk, and their accents in Sussex as well, Kent definitely, you hear people speaking in an accent which sounds quite like London, but it's like somebody's like nicked their vowels a bit. Yeah, it's tighter. Essex, obviously, the Essex accent used to be an East Anglian accent related to Norfolk and Suffolk. But so many Londoners left the East End of London once they made a bit of brass and that, right, let's get out of this dirty city and go and live somewhere nice. And so they went to live in Essex. And so the Essex accent has evolved. Something similar has happened in New York, I believe, that the old style New York accent I used to hear, you only get it in the music hall now, You can still find that in parts of New Jersey, but you won't find it in. See, the other thing you get is when you get whole different languages having an influence. So Yorkshire dialect is not the same as accent. Dialect is the words you speak, accents is how you say them. But large parts of Yorkshire dialect essentially are Danish or Scandinavian because the Danelaw was so long in control of that part of the country. So, "Heyo," which is a greeting and an answer, "Heyo, heyo." It's straight out of Scandinavia. I can't remember exactly what it means, but it's basically like, everything all right? And there are words and phrases which are more Scandinavian than, Scandinavian and Old English were very related. Each accent or accent group will have certain rules of how loud you can be. So, on average, would you say the average American compared to the average posh Englishman, which is louder? It's the American, right?
They will, yes.
A lot of space in that country. The voice has got to carry over a further distance. And, it's just like, wow. The mouth opens wider, which makes you louder for nothing. Oh, I see. Oh, very much. Oh, very much. The upper class English accent is all about control. I'm not shouting. Why are you shouting? Because the upper class English accent was an accent of imperial domination.
Yes.
And so that becomes a class thing as well. So if you're upper class, you don't shout. No, I don't shout. I have staff to do that for me. Interestingly, also, this is when we speak an accent, we are speaking a museum. The way we speak is, so I mentioned my wife's family background is Jamaican. We went to a meeting in East London a few years ago, and the man that hosted it was saying, "Oh, yeah, I know, but get onto that man on number 30. That man on number 33 is a peon."
That's Irish.
He had a Northern Irish accent. We came out, and my wife says, "Why did that man sound like my dad?" I said, "Because he's Irish." "Yeah, but my dad's Jamaican." Mm-hmm, exactly. So the English slave takers did something very cunning. They would get groups of enslaved people from different communities who spoke different languages. There are thousands of languages in Africa. And they would mix them up, muddle them up so they couldn't speak to each other, to make it harder for them to collaborate. That meant that those that survived the long crossing then arrived in the West Indies, and in Jamaica, the first plantation labor force had been dispossessed and disarmed Irish soldiers after the Battle of the Boyne in the Glorious Revolution of 1688. And so what happened is when the slave takers began to import enslaved people from Africa, the indentured laborers who were Scottish in Barbados and who were Irish in Jamaica, they tended to become overseers. And so the first common language that the enslaved people could learn such that they could communicate in Jamaica would be English with a strong Belfast accent, strong Ulster accent, beg your pardon. And on the west coast of Barbados, it would be...
How did you find that out? How did you get to that? How did you make that link?
How did I make that link?
Yeah, how did you make that link? Was it something you read, or did you...
All by myself. I listened to a very brilliant lecture by a teacher when I was doing my master's in voice, so not all by myself at all. A teacher called Edda Sharp, who's a superb, internationally renowned specialist in dialects and accents. And she pointed this out, and when she did it, of course. So the man in the meeting going, "That man on number 33 is a peon." Slow it down, change the position of the back of your tongue, and just lower it, and you get, "That man on number 33 is a peon." Phonetically, it's that, this and that. It's the same as in... And if you look at the Australian accent and southeast English, you could get like, excuse me, mate, what time's this train leave? I'm going to stick my chin forward, which will make the back of my tongue wrinkle up a bit. So, excuse me, mate, what time's this train leave? Excuse me, mate, what time's this train leave? It doesn't sound perfect Australian, but it's sounding more Australian.
Definitely did. Yeah, no, absolutely. With minimal kind of just a movement in the physicality. And I wonder whether there's something physical also changes the sound of an accent, like whether if something in the background of an Australian, for example, meant that they spoke in a different way, using different muscles, and why, you know, it's a strange thing.
And the differences are really, really tiny. They're minute, but they make a really big difference. So, for example, Nick, can you just say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday?
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Good. I'm going to make you sound quite sort of middle class. I'm going to make you sound more so. Right? Can you just pull your chin back and down so your top lip goes under your bottom lip a little, so you become a bit of a chinless wonder, sort of.
Yeah.
And then say those days of the week again.
Monday, Tuesday. Sorry, I'm going to laugh. I can hear myself. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
We don't have a creek here. So it's beginning to sound a bit more sort of.
I wasn't playing up to that, but that sounds. I don't like that sound. I mean, it's pretty pretentious, isn't it? That.
I don't like that sound. This is the other interesting thing about all accents: is all accents get judged. So the most perfect example of that is in the Bible. There's a word we use in English. Something is a shibboleth, which means something which exposes us or our origins. And it comes from the Bible. I don't know which one, the first edition or the sequel, I'm not sure. I was irreligiously brought up. But there is a thing in which some people of a particular community meet another man who they say, he's a, I don't know, I'm guessing, you know, a Canaanite. It's not a Canaanite, I'm just making it up. And he says, no, I'm not. Please, I'm not a Canaanite. I'm pretending he's one of them. And then they say to him, make him say shibboleth. So he said Sibboleth. So they slew him. Nice, huh? So in other words, he couldn't do the sh sound because it didn't feature in his accent.
Yes. Such
as all English speakers know that German people find it quite challenging to do the th sound because it doesn't feature in Hochdeutsch. I don't know about Plattdeutsch. I don't know enough about it. So it's a giveaway so then rather than so then. These things are shibboleths which show us quickly when somebody is speaking an accent which is not their native accent.
Yes, and you can hear those quite.
Yeah, and you can get a lot of judgment that goes with that because people make, I think, unjustified jokes. Okay, in England, people will say Birmingham is an ugly accent. No, it isn't. It's beautiful. Now, the range of intonation in Birmingham is fantastic. The range of up and down compared to, say, London English. It's absolutely, and the richness of the vowels. Oh, I love it.
Can you tell the difference between a Wolverhampton and a Birmingham?
Yes.
The Wolverhampton's going to be a little bit more laid back, I think. It's going to be a bit more like, don't really care, mate.
Yes, I can, but not accurate enough that I could tell you what the distinctive differences are, what the diagnostic differences are. I know a man called Graham who's a storyteller and he programs storytelling around the Midlands. He's a fantastic man, Graham Langley. And he grew up in Birmingham. And actually, I introduced him to a friend of mine once, and Graham's got a very strong Birmingham accent. And I said to my friend, Phil, you'll never guess where Graham's from. And Phil said, go on then, Graham. And so Graham spoke a bit, and Phil went, Birmingham, obviously, but I'm thinking, I think South Birmingham. And Graham said, oh, yes, very well done. Yes, that's right. Because Phil had zoned in on because there are regional accents within cities. But Graham from Birmingham told me that when he hears, we're going back to how accents exist within communities, when he hears old men speaking in Birmingham, He'll hear them talk and he will know by listening which of the huge factories they used to work in. You go, oh, yes, they were Dunlop, or oh, they were Leyland, or they were... Because a factory is so big, it's a socio-linguistic community.
Of course.
And it develops phrases and dialect and accent, which is unique to it.
Within a factory.
I mean, that's a historical thing because the factories are gone now.
And so it's going to evolve into something else.
Precisely. And it always will, because groups will always self-identify and self-determine. Yeah. And they'll express that vocally and accentually. It's great fun.
It is. It's really interesting. I mean, just from discussing it now, we've covered stuff like the divisions between people, not necessarily in a bad way, but it's there. But also it's the identity. It's a physical thing. We've discussed that, and also how an accent can travel through means, like you spoke about the slave trade and the Caribbean islands. And I found it fascinating going from Trinidad to Jamaica, and they've got their own rum that they're very proud of, each island. They love their rum. But they've also, they can tell straight away which island you're from. My wife can. I can't. But my wife will hear something, oh, Trinidad, because she grew up around West Indian accents. Yeah. So I mean, she can't go, Turks and Caicos, or, St. Kitts, but she can definitely tell the difference between... Trinidad, I think, is more sort of to the front of the mouth than Jamaica. But it's an endless discussion, because there's so much. You can even look at Europe, you can look at South America, and then it's hard not to talk about language when you talk about accents.
I don't know why, but personally, I love it. I think diversity and difference is entirely to be celebrated.
Absolutely, in every shape and form, really.
It's just bloody good. Yeah, it's just bloody good fun.
Well, we could say we've signed off. Giles, thanks very much for taking us through the lovely world of accents. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
As much as I could, it's been my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Do you want me to tell you a very short story about languages?
Yeah, if you can.
So there was a mother cat. Very happy, very tired. She'd given birth to 5 kittens, and they were fastened on and suckling, and she was purring, but gosh, she was tired. When suddenly, amidst all that noise of, and she heard, oh, which sounds like a dog, right? You could say it sounds like a middle-aged man making a stupid noise, but I'll thank you not to. It was that big brown dog from around the corner. Now, she could run away from him, and did often, but her kittens, they couldn't even stand up yet. And she knew the house door was open, it being a hot day, her mistress was out, it was that kind of village. She was scared, her paws began to sweat cold, her hair began to prickle, and that dog was getting closer and closer. And then she heard the awful sound of that dog's long claws on the floor downstairs, and then it's bounding up the stairs. She jumped, she got between her kittens, and then in the doorway there was that dog with its red mouth, wet, fanged and open, gazing at her babies. Well, she's a mother cat, right? She's going to protect her babies. She arched her back. She fluffed up her fur. She fluffed up her tail. She put back her ears. She showed her teeth. Ah, Nick, what's the noise that cats make when they're angry?
Meow.
Meow? Yes, they sound like an Englishman going, meow. Rules of display. Well, you might have thought, no, this cat, as that dog came closer, this cat went, woof! And the dog went, and the cat went, and the dog went, and turned and ran for his life, cat chasing after, going, barking like a dog. And that dog ran and ran, swearing on his mother's collar that if he ever escaped this demonic cat that could bark like a dog, he would never chase a cat ever again in his life. Well, dogs are faithful. He kept that promise. He never chased a cat ever again. That mother cat went back to where her children were. That was easy. Lay down, and when her babies were suckling again, she said to them, now, my darlings, let this be a lesson you'll never forget. Never forget how important it is in life if you can speak more than one language.
That was Giles Abbott taking us through the weird and wonderful, strange world of accents. And we are looking forward to producing more content, drawing content ideas and research from the top academics from the top universities on the planet. Thank you for listening to Film Bright's Deeper Dive. See you soon.